This is The Civil Fleet, the podcast focused on the activist-led refugee rescue and support missions across Fortress Europe, with me, Ben Coles. In today's episode, we are speaking with Esmé from the Global Sumud Flotilla. She's going to tell us about the raid that the Israeli Navy launched on the Global Sumud Flotilla earlier this week. If you don't know what the Global Sumud Flotilla is, it's an activist-led group that is attempting to break Israel's illegal blockade of humanitarian aid into Gaza. And on Wednesday, the Israeli Navy launched a raid on their ships. I think there's about 55 of them in total. Maybe there's more like 60, actually. But yeah, the Israeli Navy launched a raid on some of their ships in international waters off the coast of Crete. Some of the activists were kidnapped, taken to an Israeli naval ship, and according to Global Sumud Flotilla, they were beaten and tortured on the boat as well. Everyone, apart from 2 people, were released yesterday as of this recording, which would be Friday, May the 1st. They were released over to the Greek authorities, and then 2 of them are being taken, 2 of the activists are being taken to Israel. So yeah, this is crazy stuff, and it's still developing really. But anyway, Esmé is going to tell us all about it. Okay, so before we get on with today's episode, I'd like to remind you that the Civil Fleet is not just a blog. The Civil Fleet is not just a podcast, it's also a news blog with investigative stories, news reports, and some interviews on there also. So go check out thecivilfleet.com for more on that. Thecivilfleet.com, not the Civil Fleet, actually. And if you like what the Civil Fleet is doing, then you can support us in a couple of ways. You can share us around, you can tell your friends about it, you can follow us on social media and on YouTube. You can give us reviews on podcast apps, which would be really good. And if you really like the Civil Fleet, you can put your money where your mouth is, and you can give us a support, some money, some cash, some dosh. If you go to ko-fi.com/civilfleet, you can make a small donation there. Or if you're feeling generous, you can make a monthly one as well. Anyway, that will do. Let's get on with the show. Cool. So Esmé, are you ready?
Yes.
And Esmé, thanks so much for coming on the Civil Fleet. I'm really looking forward to this discussion about the Global Sumud Flotilla and the crazy shit that's been going on.
Yes.
But before we get into that, Esmé, I like people to know a little bit about the people I'm speaking to on the podcast. I think it's good for people to realise that anyone can take direct action in these kind of things. So yeah, yes, Esmé, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Esmé Nicholson. I am an 18-year-old chef from England who joined the Global Sumud Flotilla from Barcelona. I have been studying food preparation and nutrition throughout my life and co-own a small cafe. So that's generally my background. It's a very non-activist, very passive background. However, I was raised by a very politically aware mother and continuously seeing what's happening in Gaza, preparing food every day, knowing that other people were being systematically starved and oppressed. I knew I had a duty to act, seeing how my government fell complicit, and the UK, England, specifically for me, England's government remained complicit within the face of genocide.
That's and I can understand why someone would want to take part in this. Like, it's yes. The images that we've seen for the last 2 years have been absolutely shocking, right?
Absolutely.
It's interesting that you said that you have political parents. I'm about to become a father in the next couple of weeks or next couple of days. I don't know.
Oh, congratulations!
So I always wonder if I put my politics onto my child, will they end up rebelling and becoming a Tory?
Oh my gosh, that would be horrific.
That's the thing I worry about. But yeah, so Esmé, you are currently...
It's a valid concern.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they don't turn out like that, but we'll see.
Yeah, fingers crossed they turn out decent.
So you are right now, you're talking to me on one of the boats.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us? I think everybody listening to this podcast will know about the Global Sumud Flotilla, but it's a little bit different to the. I normally cover. People know on this podcast about refugee rescue or refugee support, which is slightly different than Global Sumud Flotilla. Oh, it's very similar. But can you just give us a background information on the Global Sumud Flotilla?
So the Global Sumud Flotilla is a grassroots organisation based on civilian participation in humanitarian related work. We sail carrying humanitarian aid, vital rebuilders and licensed professionals to assist in rebuilding Gaza, such as doctors, nurses, eco-builders, electricians, mechanics, all for the purpose of breaking the siege in Gaza, demanding an end to our government's complicity and Israel's impunity. We are a people-powered action. We are a non-political, affiliated people-powered action that is purely civilian-based.
Right, and this is like the second mission of the group, isn't it?
Yes.
And last year, I've interviewed someone, a journalist who's been on the podcast twice now, actually.
Brilliant.
And he told us about what happened last year. So for people listening, they can listen to the interview with Lorenzo all about that if they want to know more. But this time you set off from Barcelona, was it 2 weeks ago now? A week ago?
Yes, it was just over 2 weeks ago now.
How did you get involved? Like, was it an easy thing to get involved with?
So originally, for me, I watched the flotilla last year. I was thinking how powerful that is, how powerful that we people can get together and act to evoke a positive change within this world. And then I realised, I can act, I can do this. So I applied for the Global Sumud Flotilla back in January this year. And while there were various application processes, I got accepted. I began working on land-based work, so preparing for the mission, assisting in fundraising, basic things like that. I would say that it was relatively easy. We're all people. The team is absolutely lovely, at least for the UK delegation I know. And everybody is united in one shared cause. So the support network is beautiful.
That's great. And it seems like there's a lot of people involved, right? I think I don't remember exactly how many boats. There's over 50. It's a lot of people, right? It must be a ton, over 100, several hundred?
Several thousand people.
Wow. And you're there as a chef. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that role, and then we'll talk about what's been happening in the last few days. So what do you do as the chef on the thing? I think it's fairly obvious.
Yes. Well, shockingly, I cook. I know. I would, I'll give everyone a moment to process that. Yes, I do the cooking on the boat. I would try, as I study nutrition, I definitely try to make sure that we have very nutritious, balanced meals. When you're living on a boat in a small environment, you're not able to really get tons of physical exercise, despite the fact that you're constantly pulling the sails, doing various rigging. You can't exactly decide to go on a run on a 20 by 20 foot little boat.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I think the captain wouldn't be too impressed if you tried to do that too.
Run around a little bit. And can you say what the name of the boat you're on is?
Yeah, definitely. I'm on Amazona. We're called Amazon, but we all like to call it Amazona, so...
Nice.
Yes.
Sounds better. Well, Amazon, often makes you think of Jeff Bezos, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We can't be thinking of him while we're here.
So, I want to know the name of the boat because, you have a link, which I will share in the show notes of this podcast, where people can track the boats. So we should be able to see where you are. And so, today is May the 1st, International Workers' Day. And I think today's Friday, so 2 days ago, as of this recording, the Global Sumud Flotilla boats had reached Crete. And can you tell us what happened?
I will provide a bit of background prior and then come on to 2 days ago because I feel like it's important to kind of paint a picture before going in with the details. So since leaving Italy, we were monitored by military planes We were unsure of who these were from, but there were military planes circling us the entire time. Sometimes you'd only see one an hour, and sometimes it'd be every 20 minutes. Sometimes it would be you wouldn't see one for most of the day, and the rest of the fleet would report having seen one. We experienced many surveillance drones throughout the mission since day one, since leaving Barcelona. So this was nothing new. However, coming into the night on, yes, it was Wednesday, there was definitely something different. The first signal of something different was I myself was laying in this 4-person little room, trying to get some rest prior to my own night shifts and my own watch shifts throughout the night. So I was laying in bed and a couple of other people in the room, and we were talking, we were chatting, we were having a good time, trying to wind down before the night. And then all of the signal on the phones cuts off. I hear the captain say, "Has the signal cut off for anyone else?" And then the ship alarms begin blaring, each taking their time to go one by one by one by one. And over the radio, we hear multiple alarms, multiple whistles, and this absolute blaring of alarms that goes on for about 5 minutes. This happened at about 9 p.m. onwards to 10 p.m. in the night. And this was when we knew this would not be a peaceful night. This was not going to be an easy night. So going later into the night, this continued periodically. We were advised to try and get some rest, but if things got worse, we would need to be in our best selves and our best form. Then again, the captain comes running into the room and tells us that we've activated drone protocol. There are drones overhead and there are too many for it to be classified as simple surveillance. We come out to the deck wearing life vests and quickly see multiple searchlight drones. We are towards the back of the fleet. So certainly we saw a lot at the start, and then later on in the night, not much. So at the start of the night, we were seeing searchlight drones that would come over the ship, hover, and simply monitor, check. We began seeing large military vessels towards our starboard side, and later on towards port side as well. One of them began following our boat and was following for several hours before they came across another vessel and intercepted them. We were seeing ribs coming out of these military vessels, so little speedboats for interception purposes, and drones coming off of these vessels as well. Throughout the night, the signal completely cut off. Our communications from the rest of the team were cut off, with periodic moments where we were able to communicate. My purpose was communicating what was being communicated to the rest of the team, was monitoring this. So we would regularly receive the ships being intercepted, this boat to our starboard side. We would be able to see this. We would be able to see, and sometimes even hear in the distance, our comrades being intercepted, but knew we were powerless, and that the most powerful thing we could do is continue. So we did continue. Several boats did many evasive maneuvers. Ourselves, we did as well, with the brilliant crew that we're really lucky to have. And we did evasive maneuvers throughout the night, avoiding multiple drones. And our ship is quite slow, but we were hitting maximum speeds for our ship to catch up with the rest of the fleet. And we were given the signal that we needed to hit Greek waters. We were only 60 nautical miles away from Greek waters when this was happening, so we made a beeline through them throughout the night. And as dawn broke, we reached these waters and the drones began to disperse. The ships were no longer anywhere to be seen.
Crazy story. So you said were you in international waters then when it started?
Yes, we were in European international waters when it began.
Yeah, this is what I just find so shocking is that
Absolutely.
Israel has come it's something like 600 miles or 900 something kilometers away from Israel, the Israeli or the Gaza coast. It's so far, and it's right by a European country, which you'd think would not be happy about it.
I think it really demonstrates how far international complicity has gone, that they feel, in a sense, safe to come out so far away from Gaza with no ability to claim that we were a potential threat or they thought we were a potential threat, and deliberately, violently intercept civilian vessels.
And then what were these drones like? How did they look? Or did they, like, I've heard the sound of a drone, but it's just the little ones that people fly around in parks, which are annoying. But what were these like?
Well, certainly some of them do look like those drones and are quite annoying. At some point in the night, you start going, not buzzing again. Like, oh, guys, another one. And this humour is definitely adopted as a tactic to cope through the night and can remain connected with the team even under stressful situations. However, a lot of the drones are larger. I am absolutely terrible with estimating the size of things, so I don't even know if I'm going to try, but I would say like 2-3 foot. They're quite big, bulky drones, especially the spotlight ones. The light is so vibrant, so bright that if you look at them while they are over the boat, you cannot see. So an absolutely blinding white light. You cannot see the shape of the drone because of how bright the light is. For the smaller monitoring ones, I would say they're about 1 to 2 foot. Little quick things that main purpose is surveillance. We've seen multiple types of drones. A lot of them are in the distance or in pitch black skies, which evidently makes it quite hard to identify what they look like.
And so you said that you'd made a beeline to Greek waters.
Yes.
Is that because there was some sort of extra protection there, or was it because of the storm?
It was in part because of the storm, because we knew that we needed to get as many vessels safely to a place where they could anchor prior to the storm. For vessels that were intercepted or partially damaged, for example, getting into those waters would be their safe haven. And also, in part, it was for the additional protection of the Greek Coast Guard potentially being able to help when we sent SOS messages. And also to demand that the Greek government grants us protection. So we did make that beeline. We contacted the Coast Guard throughout the points that we could make contact. We did. Many, many vessels contacted the Greek Coast Guard. Originally, we heard very little. We pretty much heard, you chose to be here. We'll try and help. But then no help ever came. However, there were reports from other vessels that they were contacted by the Greek Coast Guard to say they were looking for one particular vessel that had sent an SOS call. This is not something that was widely confirmed, but only something that has been confirmed by individual participants on the vessels. Within the stressful situation and the radio frequently cutting off, it was quite hard to tell what was a genuine message.
Yeah, and it's really, I think something that's been overlooked maybe is like how fucked up it is for them to jam your communications.
Absolutely. I would further add that within this, they would often place songs over communications prior to drones coming, prior to intercepting the ships. We had, even last night, there were whistles, extremely loud, high-pitched whistles that came in over the radio for a few minutes, just to wake everybody up. A lot of it is psychological.
That's crazy. And cutting off your radios, if you were if the boat was sinking for some reason, you couldn't contact the Greek Coast Guards. It's
we
interesting.
Would be stranded in that circumstance.
On this podcast, we're often very, very critical of the Greek Coast Guards because they, as you might know, they have been involved in pushing people back to Turkey, or even worse things than that. But it's quite strange for them to be cause in that case you would have needed them if you were being attacked by someone, right? They should have been there. And for them to say you chose to be here is a ridiculous thing to say. It's every ship decides to be there, right? All the commercial ships, they decide to be there.
It was definitely a very barely their claim as to why they were unable to help. And while once we hit Greek waters, they did say that we would have their support. This support was not exactly demonstrated in any manner.
So what happened when you got to Greece? Did you dock? Did you moor up, or what happened?
So we got to Greece. In fact, for us, as we were again one of the slower boats, and the boats towards the back of the fleet. Early this morning, due to how fast we were going, our engine completely broke. So we were being towed all the way to Greece in the early hours of the morning. However, we did get there, and we have now anchored nearby a harbour, but unable to actually go in because we don't have the legal immigration-related rights to be freely roaming. Something legal. Unfortunately, I myself am not a lawyer, so I wouldn't be able to inform you in detail.
That's interesting. Well, no, it's interesting that they're saying that because, I don't know, for Brits, I'm sure it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a European citizen, they should be allowed in. This happened to me once in a very different situation. Yeah, completely, totally, and utterly different. But yes, at the time I remember thinking this is bullshit. But anyway, yeah. So, and then I think it was maybe it was yesterday or today, partially as well. But what did you find out? What was happening? Like, what happened to the other boats? What happened to people have been 175 people were taken, weren't they?
Yes, 180 people were taken. 22 boats were intercepted. One of which we found out only in the late hours of last night, so over 24 hours after the attacks and abductions, that one of the boats had all their radios jammed, their engine destroyed, the vessel partially destroyed, and the civilians left on the vessel. We have since sent Open Arms, which we are very grateful to have with us, went to recover these vessels and also search for other potential vessels of which this could have happened to. So the people have been recovered and are safe, but that was 7 people who were left stranded on a boat. So a lot was unknown at the time, and a lot still is unknown. For us, a lot of us, that was the hardest part, because these are not just our comrades, these are not just our fellow humans, but these are our friends, the people that we are in unity with. One of my best friends was on an intercepted boat, and in fact, I was being voice messaged by them at the time of their interception. And I remember them saying, I love you, bestie, we're going to get through this, we're going to do this, I will see you in Gaza. Only for 1 minute later, me to see over live stream that they had in fact been intercepted. So a lot of it was very emotional and very worrying for us all. Of course, this is nothing in comparison to what Palestinians are facing in Gaza daily. And that remains the main drive of this mission, to know that this injustice and this suffering of which we have faced is nothing in comparison. And that it is, in a way, a direct result of Israel's continued impunity and ability to expand its violence and its aggression towards anything pro-Palestinian. For our comrades, today we found out more information, which we were both incredibly grateful to finally know what was happening, and a lot of it was significantly worrying. As you may have seen about 10 minutes ago only, it was discovered that they faced extreme violence within the Israeli ships. Being out there for over 40 hours in an IOF military vessel, they faced beatings, broken noses, broken ribs, being dragged while bound, forced to sleep in flooded rooms, told to lay down in flooded rooms, which the floors were soaked, denied food, water, medication, and received further beatings when they protested the taking of Tiago and Safe, 2 of our organisers and our leads for the mission. They received further beatings when they demanded that they not be separated and taken to Israel. These people are now on buses being transported either, we don't know where, or potentially rejoining the mission further on. This is still uncertain, as a lot of things have been said, but what is actually concrete is lacking. 60 of 180 have gone on hunger strikes, which really does show the resilience and the Sumud of our participants and of our fellow people here. And that the spirits are not broken. We remain very grounded in why we're here. However, Tiago and Saif are both being currently transported to Israel, which is an absolutely disgusting violation. of any form of international law, as all of this is.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know, are they being sailed? Is that the right word? Are they being taken by the ship, or are they being flown there?
We believe they're being taken by ship.
Jesus. Yeah. And it's very worrying for them, because I know that I think Saif is half Palestinian, half Spanish, I think. It's Palestinian citizenship and Spanish citizenship, right? I think.
Yes, I believe so. Yes, that's safe.
And I think that's very, very worrying for him. And it's also worrying for Tiago, because I know that the Israeli government has it out for him. So it's really worrying what's going to happen to them. We don't know. Hopefully by the time I post this podcast, they'll have been released, but I doubt it. We'll have to see what happens there.
We really will. I highly doubt they will be released, unfortunately, but we are all hoping for that. We are all working towards that. And the only hope really is that people will mobilise and people will act. And I know many of my friends back in England are in fact doing that. We have the support of the people. It's just, if we can be a big enough force to challenge the systems that are allowing this to happen, and a matter of if it will happen quick enough. Because it's already happened too slow in a way. For Palestine has been under siege for so many years. This resistance should have happened years ago, but it's happening now.
And the people that were, the other people aside from Tiago and Saif, were they, the rest of them, did you say they're being detained in Greece now, or where are they?
Yes, they're currently on buses in Greece, which I'm unsure if you saw the Instagram video that was posted of these participants and the wounds that they faced, some of them like verifying the beatings and the abuse that happened. They are on buses being transported to airport, and we are waiting further information on what will happen from there.
Yeah, that's interesting, because hopefully their governments will get in contact with them and help them rejoin the mission. And like, you know, compared to what's happening in Gaza, like obviously what's happening in Gaza in the West Bank and what's happened to you is not comparable at all. But something I was thinking about is the boats, right? The boats that they've damaged.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for that? Like, what's going to happen to those boats? They're just going to leave them to float in the sea? Like. In
fact, Open Arms suspects reason to believe that one of the boats was sunk.
Yeah, that's not good. And like another boring but important thing is that if this affects insurance and stuff, it's going to make it harder for other missions to go on, and this can't be allowed to happen, right? And I don't think Western governments are going to do anything. Have you heard from like the British government or the British embassies or anything? It cut then, and it was going a bit slow. Can you just add to that question again?
Connection on a ship is never brilliant, so I'll try to speak clearly and slowly in hopes that even if the connection cuts, there will be some clear form of answer. I have not heard at all from the British Embassy, the British government, nothing. And for the majority of participants, this has been the case. For the majority of people, this has been the case, regardless of where they are from. And it really, again, demonstrates the fact that they would rather see the people suffer than challenge the system that is allowing them to suffer, because they are benefiting off this system. They're benefiting off their complicity. And I think that is important to highlight, is that this is a system of which is allowing this to happen, not an individual issue.
Absolutely. And like I've seen the last, since Wednesday, there's been a few statements put out by some politicians. I don't think that like anyone in government ministers, I could be wrong, but I haven't seen them say anything.
There was a Green Party statement.
Yeah, there was a Green Party statement, and I'm not sure what the other parties have said, but interestingly, the ministers have not said anything. But if you imagine you guys were trying to get to Ukraine with aid, and Russia did something similar, it would be like World War III now. Like it
would be all hell reigned in that circumstance. And it shows the duality of the system, the duality and the my mind is forgetting the words. I'm getting ahead of myself in speaking. Hold on, sorry. The hypocrisy as well, that if we were, in fact, delivering aid to Ukraine, we would be hailed as representatives of the country or humans doing the right thing. And yet in this circumstance, instead, we are undermined, ignored, and allowed to be abused, detained, and abducted.
Yeah, it's really bad. And so at the moment, Esmé, where are you now? Are you still off the coast of Greece, or are you...
No, just off the coast of Greece, where we will be sitting for multiple days due to a storm, and the fear that if we continued sailing during the storm and were to be attacked again, this would be more dangerous for the ships in waiting.
And how do you expect it to go? Do you think you guys are going to make it to Greece? Not Greece. You're going to make it to Gaza, or do you think it will end similarly to last mission?
We all believe that we are capable of making it to Gaza, and that is only part of the battle. So much is reliant on land movements, land mobilizations, and the people rising and acting. We are only one element of global action, and even if we fall, another wave will form. So we do believe that we will reach Gaza. I have many comrades from Thousand Madeleines and Freedom Flotilla Coalition who are speaking of their plans and their ideas for what will come after. So I know that even if I were to be abducted, even if the entire fleet were to be abducted, we would come again and we would do it. And the reason that they interfere so early on in the mission, so shockingly early on, is in a way because they're scared. And that is how we are taking it, and that is how we are perceiving it, because they feel threatened that they would not be capable of stopping us all if they were to do it in Israeli waters. So much so that they have had to come out to European international waters and commit acts of piracy in order to prevent us and destabilize us and demoralize us, and we will not let that happen. We know why we are here. We stand by our morals and our values, and Palestine will be free.
Absolutely, I hope so. And I think it also shows the fact that Israel can just do this near European waters. It kind of shows it shows the hypocrisy of it all, right? And it shows, I think it ought to embarrass European governments, but I don't think it will. But they shouldn't be allowed to do this. Shouldn't be able to do it as well.
Absolutely, it's breaking all sorts of international law, protocol, maritime law. You name it, there is a list of laws they are breaking, and the same laws that they have been breaking and violating, the same international law that they have been breaking and violating in Gaza for so long, so continuously. For example, even not allowing Palestinian people to fish and sail within their own waters is illegal. Genocide is illegal. And yet nothing has come of it and nothing has happened. No consequence has been implemented. And this is the consequence of them facing no consequence.
And so I hope you do make it to Gaza. Actually, before that question, I'll come back to that question. What kind of aid have you got on the ship that you want to give people?
We are carrying many things. Depends on the ship, depends on the size of the vessel. We are carrying medical aid, medical equipment, medical supplements, pills, medications, feminine hygiene products, school supplies, food, shelf-stable food, water. I know for a fact that our ship, there is such a significant amount of water. You lift up a cupboard, water. You step on a floorboard. Oh, that's where the water is. Got to be a bit careful. And boxes and boxes of sanitary supplies and school supplies. In fact, one of the sweetest things that we have on this flotilla that I haven't seen talked about enough, but really it was heartwarming for me because I was one of the people to organise this and go through it, is we received backpacks from schools in Barcelona where they allowed the children to each put a little thing in and write a note to children in Gaza. And so we are also delivering those school supplies as well. That's and those really messages sweet. From children to Gaza.
That's really sweet. And it just highlights the the insanity of it all. Like, why is a government using all of its all these military resources to stop that? It's insane. It's crazy.
All military resources, military vessels are being used to stop school supplies, to stop feminine hygiene products and medicine, to stop doctors and journalists and lawyers from rebuilding a place of which has seen absolute horrors, absolute crimes against humanity, continuous genocide and breaches of international law. So much effort and time is being spent on either stopping us or ignoring us.
And so, yeah, I hope you do make it to Gaza and you are able to give these things to them. I imagine what will happen is they will either seize the ships or seize you guys and take you to prison in Israel, like what happened with the last group. How are you feeling about that? Do you feel prepared for that to happen?
We all, certainly before coming here, that was one of the main worries for everybody. That was one of the main concerns, not only for us, but for our families and for our communities. It's knowledge that we come on this mission knowing that we may not come back. And that in itself is a reflection of how dire things are and how horrific things are, that because our governments have failed, civilians are risking their lives to deliver humanitarian aid. However, we have accepted those risks, and I personally feel prepared for that. I feel very, as I said prior, I believe this is very similar to phrasing how I phrased earlier in this discussion. I feel very grounded in my morals and in why I am here. I am here for Gaza. If I get intercepted and kidnapped, I will know better to have tried and to have hoped than to have done nothing at all. Because if more people try and more people hope and more people act, this genocide will end. So I know that I am only one part of an international movement, and that I have done my part and that we have done our part, regardless of what happens in a way.
Yeah, and I was thinking the other day, I think because I'm about to become a parent, I was thinking about, this is like, you guys are taking part in something that's, people will look back in the future on these movements and what happened. It was going to be a point in time that everyone will remember, I think, the genocide in Gaza. And I hope we'll look back at it and be like, our government's absolutely failed. But eventually it was the people that forced them to do it. That's what I hope will be the lesson. I'm not sure that's what's going to happen.
We have hope for that. Certainly in history, it's always been people-powered movements that have evoked change in systems designed to oppress them. We are all living under some form of oppression in a way, under some form of control. Even the fact that I am unable to be granted protection by my government that claims it's meant to protect me while delivering humanitarian aid really does show the fact that, we are living in a society based around a system of abuse and oppression.
Absolutely. Well, Esmé, I think I've asked everything I wanted to ask. Was there anything you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you? Anything you want to say before we finish?
No, absolutely. This has been such a wonderful discussion. Thank you for having me. The only thing I really wanted to act is anybody listening to this, anybody hearing this or seeing any sort of clip of this, please continue to mobilize. Contact your embassies, contact your governments. We need to get these people that have been intercepted and abducted and abused. We need to get them home. We need people in the UK, my fellow people, hi. We need to get them back, and we need to demand protection for the flotilla. Not only that, but continue fighting for Palestine. As I have said throughout this interview, and I will stand by it, all action is important, all action is powerful, and we are powerful together. That is exactly why they try and stop us. So, continue acting, continue rising, because Palestine will be free. It's not a matter of if, but when, and that when should have been years ago.
Well, Esmé, that was a really great chat. Thank you so much for coming on the Civil Fleet podcast, and hopefully we'll be in touch again after all of this.
Absolutely. I would love to come on again. It's been amazing chatting to you. Such a lovely experience. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Okay, that was episode 89 of the Civil Fleet podcast. Thank you very, very much for listening. Thanks again for Esmé for coming on the podcast. Thanks everyone at the Global Sumud Flotilla, especially their press team for organising this. And good luck to them. I think they're probably going to need it. Check out the show notes. I've got lots of links for everything on there that we've talked about in this episode. Go check out the Civil Fleet blog, which is civilfleet.com, and you can find some of our news reports on this. You can find some investigative stories that we've done, and also some features and some interviews on there too. If you like what the Civil Fleet is doing and you'd like to help us to continue to platform the amazing people that we have had on here, then you can do so by going to ko-fi.com/civilfleet, and you can make a small donation there, or a monthly one if you like. So that's ko-fi.com/civilfleet. Our costs are super small, but it are very grassroots, and so any support you can give us will be greatly appreciated. Not sure when the next episode's going to be. It might be a month or so, because I'm about to have a baby and things are going to get crazy. So I'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.